All right, so I want to show you guys a concept about, joint by joint. And so we look at all the joints, and some are more geared at mobility and some are more geared at stability. Every joint in your body is going to need, you're going to need it to be mobile and stable at the same time. But some of them we rely on more mobility for movement, and others we rely more on some stability here. So here's a list of the joints. I got mobility on this side, stability on this side. We can see here. Let's go down to the toes. Now, the toes, a lot of people don't think of the toes unless they're hurting, but the toes need to be very, very mobile. And I got a little model here too. So every time you step, those toes bend and then they take the absorption when you step down. So when you lift off, they bend up. So if for some reason, especially your big toe, if it doesn't have that 65-degree motion in there, when these get stuck like that and you go to stand, it flattens out the bottom of your foot versus when you step on those feet and go like, with your normal gait pattern there too. So it's very important that these toes are mobile, especially with dorsiflexion or extension in there too. So when you lose that mobility in there, that's when I see a lot of people come in with plantar fasciitis, heel pain. They start to develop heel spurs if it's been like that for years. So, I'm going to create videos on all these different mobility, but your first joint we want to look at is the toes. They need to be very mobile. And then the next joint in the body is the bottom of the foot, and we want that to be stable. So as we stand or take steps, it needs to be stable and hold our body up. So as we move, the toes move, but as we land, the bottom absorbs that and then keeps us secure in there. And that's why having a good arch is good for everybody, so it absorbs some of that gravitational pull down there. So then the next joint up is the ankle. The ankle needs to be very mobile. When you, especially if you're playing basketball or tennis or any other sport, pitching, that ankle needs to be able to move in all the different directions there too. So that's an important one for, looking at making sure that it has mobility there. And if we go up to the next joint, we got the knee. And a lot of people have knee pain. And the problem with the knee pain issues is most of the time we find it's not coming from the knee, it's actually coming from the ankle or the hip. So the joint above the knee would be the hip. So usually either the hip is not moving fully, you don't have full mobility in the hip, or you don't have full mobility in the ankle, and then the knee suffers because the knee is a stability joint. It's just absorbing a lot of the upward weight of our body, and it's mostly a hinge type joint, so it mainly just wants to act like a hinge. But if our ankles aren't moving well or our hips not moving well, then that knee will start to, you know, go on the transverse plane there and start to move in directions it doesn't, it's not familiar with or it doesn't want to do, and then tissues get inflamed, the meniscus in there gets damaged, the ACL, PCL all become overstretched a lot of times. So, so the next joint up, from the ankle is that knee. And so when the ankle isn't moving well, the knees tend to suffer with a lot of people. Then you go up to the hips, and the hips can either cause knee problems or a lot of times I see low back problems. So when people come in with low back, they want to look for relief from the low back, and they want heat and stim or an adjustment or stretches. But a lot of times we go to the hips and work on mobility in the hips. And the hips is very multiplanar, so you got to move that in all the different directions, forward, backward, sideways. It's a ball and socket joint in there. Then you have the thoracic spine. The thoracic spine wants to be mobile, but unfortunately, a lot of people, we sit on our phones, we sit on our computers all day long, we watch TV, so you see an anterior carriage of the head or forward posture, and they're even calling it tech neck with kids right now. And when you have that posture, that thoracic spine is not moving. So watch our video on thoracic movement, side to side. We'll make some videos on that, but you know if that thoracic spine isn't working well or moving well, then it can lead to neck pain or it can lead to low back pain also in there. If we go up to the neck, the neck can be broken up into the lower and the upper. So the thoracic spine is immobile. So the bottom of the neck is a stability joint, and then the upper part of the neck is a mobility. So we get most of our movement at the very top of our neck, and then the base or bottom of our neck is a stability joint in there too. And then we go down the arms. The shoulder should be very mobile. Should be moving in all the different directions, going up, going to the side. Then you get down to the next joint, which is your elbow. And it's like your knee. It should be a hinge type joint in there. So again, we find a lot of elbow problems are either coming from the shoulder not having full range of motion, or the wrist is not having full range of motion. So working on mobility with the shoulders and the wrist is very important. And then we also need the fingers moving well too. So the fingers are going to act kind of like the toe in the sense where you need to be able to move them in all the different directions. And what I find a lot of times with elbow pain is loss of extension strength. So we have a lot of exercises we do for strengthening the extension strength of those fingers without using the wrist, because the wrist gets overused with extension from typing, from gripping a tennis racket, from gripping a golf club or baseball bat. And a lot of times it's secondary to having weak finger extensions there too. So kind of to recap this, I mean, the simple process to, working on ankle or bottom of the foot problems between the ankle and the toes is working on toe extension and toe range of motion. Whenever I find people with knee problems, we work on the ankles, mobility in the ankles. Whenever I find low back problems, we focus a lot also on the hip, the mobility of the hip. And when the thoracic spine is not moving well, I get shoulder pain or low back pain there too. So again, whenever you have pain, I suggest you look at the joint above and below it, not just right where you're having pain, because a lot of times that's secondary and compensating for a joint above and below it not working out. So this is a simple concept that's been kind of floating around a lot, and we use it a lot here and get really good results with it as we go along. So think about this. If you have any questions, let us know. We're also going to start to make movies, so look for our movies on ankle mobility, on hip mobility, on thoracic mobility, on shoulder mobility, on cervical neck mobility, wrist and finger mobility. And along with those videos, we'll show you how to activate the tissue of the joints that are more stable. So we'll work on activating the tissue underneath the foot, activating the tissue around the knee, lymphatics around the knee, activating and stretching the lumbar spine musculature, and some of the frontal transverse abdominal muscles there too. So hopefully this video helps, and look for more videos down the road. But here's just a little recap and a list of videos that we'll be making in the future here, or probably already have already. So any questions for this from this video, feel free to contact us, either call the office or contact us through our website.